I'm Anita here with this week's Digital Scrapbook layout using GIMP. I used the collaboration kit called Hello Summer from GingerScraps.net for this layout. I also used the stamp frame that I found from the Surviving School digital kit, also available from GingerScraps.net. Here is our finished layout. I'm loving the colors and papers and textures available in this kit. My layout here is the 3600 by 3600 pixels, providing me with a 12-inch by 12-inch printable JPEG image at a resolution of 300 ppi or pixels per inch. Here is my new image, and you can see here in my new image, I have my boundaries set up, providing me a 1/2 inch boundary barrier here so that I can be sure and have all of my elements inside that edge to protect anything from being lost during the printing process. On my new image, I have my main digital paper. I also have two papers that I'm going to use inside the frame, and I have my 4 photos that I'm going to put into the frame here. Look at that adorable face. So let's start by rotating the frame and giving it just a little bit of a angle here. And I'm going to go ahead and move that just a little bit like this. And I'm going to just go down to the next photo, and I'm going to turn her around, rotate, and let's scale her some. Scale, click on it, drag it, and then I can kind of look at the height. So I need to make it just a little smaller so her face pretty much fills that area. So let's go ahead and scale that. And we'll move to the next one. And we'll rotate that. Use my move tool. Let's pull her over here. Pull her up here so that she's like the main focus. Okay, let's move to our next one. We're going to go ahead and scale this one first a little bit. Do that. Rotate. Move her. And let's go ahead and the next one here, we're going to scale our next one. Scale. Let's put her on, move her layer so we can see her. Rotate. Rotate. Move tool. And I might just leave her just like that. So we have some extra on our photo. So let me show you how we would get rid of that extra. So I'm going to make the frame layer active. Let's use our fuzzy select. And I'm just going to click on the inside of our frame window there. Right click, select grow. I just want to grow by 2 pixels, not much. Now I'm going to invert that selection so that now I have selected everything outside the frame window. I'm going to go to the layer that has this photo on it, and then push the delete key. And let's repeat that again for this window. So I used my fuzzy select, I clicked inside the open area, I grew that selection and I inverted that selection. Now I go to the photo layer and I want to make a note here. Anytime you're deleting areas on a layer, you would like to confirm that it has an alpha channel. You can determine that by right-clicking over the layer that's active and looking down here toward the bottom of your new menu that appears. And if this is grayed out where it says add alpha channel, that means that you can't add one, but remove alpha channel is available. So that means that this layer does have an alpha channel. So now we have selected the outside portion, the area we do not want, and we'll just I push the delete key on my keyboard and it will delete the area outside. You'll notice now that GIMP remembers the original size of this layer. So we want two things. We want to get rid of this area that is outside of our image. So we will right click on this layer. We will say layer to image size. Now everything on the layer that was beyond our image is gone. GIMP believes that now this layer is the entire size of our image. So let's go ahead and go to layer and crop to content. The layer boundaries now are around only the area on the layer that has content. Let's move to this layer and we don't need to layer to image size because nothing is beyond our image. So we simply can go to layer, crop to content. And for this one, this layer, we're going to need to get rid of some extra. So we'll do the fuzzy select, go to our frame layer, grow our selection, invert our selection, return to the proper layer, and delete everything. And then we'll just go to layer, crop to content. And we'll just repeat that for our next photo. Invert, go to the layer, delete, and crop to content. So now let's use the tools we just learned and go to our frame. We're going to select our area, grow it, invert it, go to our digital paper layer and delete everything except for what we want. We'll repeat this for the other paper as well. Now that we have our paper cut to fill all of our frames, I want to add a vellum layer on top of this because I want to put our journaling on top, but I want it to stand out just a little bit. But you'll notice that we have an inverted selection. So we actually have all of this area selected. So I'm just going to invert that once more so that we have this selection here. And I'm going to create a new layer called Vellum. It appears just above the selected layer, and I'm going to fill it with a light pink. So I filled it with a light pink, but I don't really want everything to go away. So we're just going to reduce the opacity so that it's so now the paper underneath is muted. We can do our journaling. So I'm going to use this KL Gumjacks at 70. I'm going to use a slate color and I'm going to center it. So let's go ahead and do this. Rose, she's 11 months. She loves to laugh and she is full of joy. And I like this a lot, but I want to show you what if I wanted to just increase the size of one line. If I were to, even if I highlight my text in just one word over in the main toolbar, if I increased it to 150, it increases everything by 150. So I'm going to leave it in the main toolbar, I'm going to leave it at 70. But I want to increase her name to 150. So I'm going to use this toolbar right here, put in the 150, and it just increases the font size on one portion. So now I'm just going to use my move tool, move it over, but I want it to be rotated. Before I rotate it or do any alterations to my layer that has text, I want to make sure everything is like I want it, because once I do an action to it, it is no longer a text layer. It is it is an image layer. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate that. And let me show you what I meant. So you'll notice in our layer palette, now it's no longer a text layer. If I use my text tool and I go and I click on this layer, it tells me, wait a minute, you've altered this text layer. So if I wanted to do any changes to the text, I would have to click on edit. It returns it back to a text layer. I make my changes, and then I can add the rotation if I wanted to. I'm just going to cancel out of that. So our next, I'm going to take a step back and take a look at what we've done. And it looks good, but we don't have any dimension on it. So what I want to do is add a shadow. I want the photos and the papers to be as if they were printed here on this piece of stamp. So I want my shadow to be underneath all of that. So here would be on the layer palette, you can see my frame, all of my photos and my papers, and then my shadow would be below that. Let's go ahead and create a shadow. So I'm going to right click on the frame layer. I'm going to choose an alpha to selection. That's selected all of the frame parts. And I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call it shadow. And this layer here, put it just above the digital paper. And I'm going to use the bucket fill and fill this layer with black. Let's go ahead and hide that so you can see it. I can't change this while it's selected, so I need to select none. Go to filters. I'm going to go to blur and do Gaussian blur. I'm going to make my size approximately 20. And there is what happens. You can see it. Let me add the frame, and you can see there's just a little bit of shadow on the outer edges. While this looks fine, what if we were to do a little bit of something different? Let's go to our transform tools and let's click on 3D transform. Now, when we click on our shadow, we can move it around and make it 3D. If you wanted to type in your numbers, you can do that in the toolbar, or I grabbed and moved it. So I'm going to go ahead and let's put it there. I'm going to push the transform button, and it's going to transform it. And it's going to give us a little bit of a different shadow, kind of a three-dimensional type of look. You can do whatever you want to do on your layout. We're going to go ahead and leave that there. And I'm going to go layer, crop to contents, just to bring in the selection, the yellow box there. So you'll notice I brought in all of my elements. I resized them, I rotated them, I duplicated the paint splatters to put some up here and some down here. In order to get the ribbon to appear to be weaving in and among things, I did two copies, one below this flower and one on top of the flower. And then on the top copy of the ribbon, I simply erased this portion so that it can be seen. Then I added the shadow only to the bottom layer of the ribbon. And that is how I created this layout. I added dimension around the edge to give that little bit of a curved effect around the outer border. I added shadows to all of my elements. I did not add a shadow to the paint splatters because they're like painted onto our background paper. And I added the stitching, and I also put in the, I did do a text here using an old typewriter font. Information is in the description box here, and I rotated it around, and I used staples to hold it all to the page. And that is the end of this layout creation. I'll go ahead and save this in the native GIMP format, the XCF, so that I can come back and make any changes to the layers I want to, if I need to make any changes. I also save it as a high resolution JPEG so that I can print it into my yearly album. And I would then also go ahead and reduce its size and save it as a reduced size JPEG to share digitally. If you're interested in getting a template of this layout or any of the templates for any of the other weekly digital scrapbook layouts, visit beandesigns.com and see how you could get that free template. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial and you might be interested in more. Check out Bean Designs YouTube channel. There are layout videos there as well as a few other tutorials on using GIMP as a digital scrapbook creation tool. You guys have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.